Food Challenge. We are a national nonprofit on a mission to empower and support college students in shifting campus food procurement to ethical, sustainable sources. So, like shifting procurement to real food. Structurally, we're a worker self-directed nonprofit, and we want to just take a moment to introduce ourselves because we might be some new faces to those of you who have been connected with Real Food Challenge in the past. So I'll kick it off. I'm Amanda Chu, pronoun she, her. I'm the procurement director. I was hired in this role in October 2023, so about a year and a half now. And I wasn't an RFC alum. I wasn't on the calculator team when I was in college. And so my first year here, I've been learning voraciously about all of the incredible work that's been done and getting to meet so many super alumni and folks who are still plugged into the work. And we're excited to tell you what this last year and a half has looked like for us and let you know like what else we're up to. But more about me, I'm coming from the Great Lakes area. I was there for 10 years. I'm originally from South Texas. Hello. And now my family and I are like full-time living on the road all over Turtle Island right now, making our way up the West Coast to the Alaska area. But I come to this work from my entry point was in college. I don't have like farming background in my family, but I guess I had a transformative moment when I was in college to really think about where my food comes from. And as I learned more and more, this is like quite a long time ago, like pre MySpace, maybe, that we weren't all able to connect and really learn from one another about food systems. It was all new to me. And I was like, oh, okay, this is the thing I'm committed to for the rest of my life. And so I've been a farmer, I've been a farm worker, I've been a farm manager on organic farms, and it's been able to allow us to travel a bit and learn a lot about different places. Trying to bring values into the food system has like brought me to local elected positions. It's inspired me to go back to school, get an MBA in supply chain management, and that's what's like led me to this path to be like a navigator of like supply chain and like food system logistics and all of that. So I'm super excited to be here and start to get acquainted with some of you and continue like good relationships with others of you. Sorry, that was like longer than we were expecting to do it, but I'm going to pass it off to my buddy Marlena.
Yeah, sorry, I can't follow that. Did not come prepared. Hi, everyone. I'm Marlena. I'm the operations director, mostly doing the background work. So I don't have to talk a lot on this webinar, thank God. That's my dog. And so excited all y'all are here. Shoot, I forget who was next. Was it Jesse or Sam? Sam. Go for it, Sam.
Hi, all. I'm Sam Parsons. I use she, her pronouns. I'm located in Virginia, and I'm the development director here at Real Food Challenge. I grew up on a small farm, and I have a background in student organizing. So Real Food Challenge is really a way for me to bring kind of all of my areas of life and passion together, and really excited to be here. Thank you. All right, Jesse.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jesse James. I am a they. I'm working here as the organizing director. I'm hired a month after Amanda, so I'm the newest member of our little worker self-directed nonprofit. Yeah, I live in the Yokuts land of the San Joaquin Valley, also Fresno, California. So the West Coast presence here. Yeah, and I come from community organizing background, working with youth and peers of many different communities, as well as I worked for a small farm and regional food systems in the Monterey Bay and the greater Bay Area in California for a couple decades. So I'm super excited to be bringing my belief in like people and the earth and our ability to figure out how to live here in a sustainable and like not so horrible way. And also that I'm like learning about this national organizing and campaign presence, because that's not my skill set. So I'm excited to, and I've already been learning from y'all a lot. But speaking of y'all, we already had most of you intro yourself in the chat. But then we wanted to add in, can you share your favorite summer food? Because I don't know about you, but I'm already feeling those like melons on the way and those juicy peaches. And I'm curious what you're looking forward to around the corner. Shishito peppers, yes. Strawberries for sure. BLTs. I just like imagining a big potluck with all of our favorite foods that we bring and share together. Um, because you know what? It's just nice to think about the things that we enjoy, right? So thanks for sharing. Peaches, seafood. Yes, I love it. Lilac jelly. Ooh, that sounds really good. Thanks for sharing, everybody. Keep them coming as you think about it. Um, man, yeah.
I mean, this wasn't a competition, but I think watermelon's winning.
That's
Yeah,
really nice.
no, tomatoes is like second runner up. Thanks, everyone. See you, Lemon. Welcome, welcome. Well, cool. Keep that coming. This is the way, like, seeing that chat box, just like scroll, 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 and seeing that engagement is just a way that we can feel connected, kind of like across space right now. Because we really, of course, the preference will be that we all get to be in the room together. So we've got like big hopes for this little bit of time that we get together with y'all today. So we hope that you're leaving this call with us, like getting familiar or refamiliar with Real Food Challenge in 2025. We hope that you have some understanding about how we can come back to your campus, work with your students, support your good work, the things that you're already doing. That is kind of like aligned with the mission and the heart of why we do what we do. We want to get you introduced to our updated set of standards. 3.0 is here, and our calculator that also supports those standards. Want to make sure we get through to and answer enough of your questions and help you identify some next steps on how to work with us. So how to do that best is, we know you signed up for this webinar, but we're really driving folks to take our RFC intake form to fill that piece out. That just gives us a little bit more information about you, where you're at, what you're doing, what you're interested in. And we're taking all that information and stewing on it. We're like, okay, well, these are the folks that are leaning in and ready to be engaged with RFC. How can we design programming that's going to support these folks? And so please make sure you get into that intake form. I'm going to be like shamelessly plugging it the whole webinar. It will be annoying to you by the end. I will have like convinced everyone to have filled it out before you leave today.
Another thing we like you to fill out as we want to pull you in is we've got a couple polls for you. Ideally, this is our way of like making it a little bit interactive, but also to get information about who's in the room. We've been reading it in the chat, but yeah, take a second. Sam's gonna drop the polls or pull it up into the Zoom screen and fill it out. We'll give it a minute. It should be pretty quick. But yeah, just some basic information to continue to get us grounded in who's here. We also hope you like puns because we do, and it just makes our work a little bit more fun. All right, things are trickling in. Some people
kind of real time.
Yep.
Hey.
Everybody.
We have a lot of super cool unaffiliated individuals. Love it.
Yay.
Also, something we meant to say in the very beginning, we are recording this. We are the only ones that are going to be on video. We will stop it before the Q&A when we kind of open it up more. And our intention is to tidy it up and to make it a resource for people. I saw that there was a question asked about that. So thanks for asking that question and reminding us. Great. Yeah. So there's a lot of folks who've had a connection with RFC in the past. A lot of org partners in college, staff, faculty. Yeah, thanks for being here. A lot of interest in standards and calculator, grow markets for values-based farmers and values-based procurement support. I'm going to share the results here, so you should be able to see who else is in the room. Thanks for doing that.
I love it. Super. So now this is the map of what we've got going on for the rest of our time together here. We're all like welcomed in and warmed up. And so we're gonna get into the things that we are extra excited about are like what we have to offer kind of going forward. But since this is like a relaunch of our organization, we want to make sure that we're honoring and grounding in like the history and where RFC has been. So we'll start with a flyby. We've got learnings and takeaways to be harvesting as we reflect on what RFC has been in its tenure, and let y'all know how that's informing our current moment. And then like, what's up now? What's RFC been up to? And that includes like what student work, what campus work has looked like, that 3.0 standards and calculator. And then what's up next? Because we've got a few ways like right away that y'all can start to get involved with us. We want to make sure that you leave here knowing how you can continue to be connected. And then we've set aside a good chunk of time, like 30 minutes ish for Q&A and see what's coming up for y'all. So again, that's me plugging that, use that Q&A feature. Chat us if it's like, oh, weird, something's frozen, I can't hear. Like if you're experiencing those sort of tech things, that's what the chat's for. And then start stacking your questions in the Q&A. And so if you could, because questions might be coming in, I just don't have like room on my window to also see the Q&A right now. If you could scan and see if someone else has already asked and kind of like good enough the question that you also have, then give that one an upvote because we're going to prioritize the higher upvote questions first when we get to that section. All right. So like May 6th, 2025. Why now? Why are we relaunching like today? We're so excited to have been here and to be back and be able to make this like public invitation to gather. And it's taken some time for RFC to see what's still real, see what's still alive, and what the organization has to offer to meet this moment now. And so in that, we were refining the rollout package for our 3.0 standards, and we were building an entirely new calculator to support those updated standards. So we have those things, they're kind of like piloted and tested, and we're ready to bring them to y'all, to your work, and support that starting this fall. So thank you. So glad that you're all here. So a part of that in what we have to offer in this relaunch, again, shameless plug for the intake form over here or dropped in the chat or in the follow-ups. This is the way that we're going to keep figuring out how to design programming that's going to make this make sense for y'all and meet y'all's needs and wants.
So how did we get here? We're going to do a brief flyby of our history. Many of y'all have been a part of RFC efforts in the past. Some of you are like essential to what we have done. And it's going to be an incomplete history because that's not the focus of today. There's no intentional oversight, or if we miss key points, like feel free to throw them in the chat. But also if you have questions about like what happened to this thing or why is it this way, yeah, chat us up or put it in the question and answer, and we'll talk about it, or reach out afterwards. But let's just dive in. As most of you know, we started in 2007 as a coalition of students and advisors and food justice activists, bringing together a number of movements to become what we know as Real Food Challenge, with the mission to shift procurement with students on college campuses. To do that, we needed a metric of like understanding what we meant by like sustainable ethical food. So we created the Real Food Standards and the Real Food Calculator to do that assessment. The yellow stars are the Real Food Standards over time. And so you can see they've been revised 2015, and then again, the long process of aligning them with Anchors in Action, which led us to the 3.0 standards that we have today. But yeah, as we grew and with momentum in our efforts as like a grassroots student and coalition, we ended up with a 20 by 2020 campaign to shift $1 billion in food systems towards real food, and met with lots of success, right? Like that's why we're here, is because there was something that was really special and happening. There's so many stories of those successes. One is like as evidenced by the CSU system shifting its sustainability policy and incorporating the goal of reaching our campaign by 2020. And so many stories of the impacts on local producers. And some of the stories that we caught in our impact report that we'll share in a second. But then in 2018, part of the growth was that realizing that just focusing on campus procurement and growing with the values that we had, it required like actually participating in other movements, right? Participating in not just food justice, but environmental and social justice. And from Real Food Challenge grew Uprooted and Rising, which was a whole other organization whose efforts really spans like outward, with the realization, the goal to shift really like culture, right? And to live in a better way. I'm not going to do it justice, and that's not the focus of today's presentation, but just like super uplifting that mission and that organization, and then caught under the umbrella of Real Food Generation, where we all worked together. 2019 saw the publication of the Betrayed Report, which was the findings that a lot of the growth of procurement was being confined by these contractual kickbacks, right? Like between large food corporations, certain food service management companies, distributors, and that was a huge behind the scenes happening. So that report tells a really amazing story that we feel like didn't really get released as much as it could have been because of what happened in 2020, where the world changed and we all pivoted to figure out how to live under the early days of COVID. In that period, our organizations also had some turnover internally, leadership change, as well as like some struggle that led us to basically kind of like completely rebooting and reevaluating. That story, again, is not the subject of today, and we have a document that you can read to explain more about kind of like what happened and why we had this like fallow period and absence. But what came from that was an assessment and a realization that there's still a lot of work and special place for the Real Food Challenge mission. I inherited a commitment to the Real Food Challenge, right? This original mission to shift procurement with students, and that's what brought us here today, or here to begin this like regrowth in this period. I'm gonna just share the photos of those reports. If you haven't seen them, I definitely suggest checking them out. There's a lot of our history wrapped up into these reports, and super uplifting the work that some of you all were a part of to put these into existence. And then, yeah, so there's learnings from these 15 years of work that we inherited as we're being like, okay, what place do we play? One was that the RFC mission like made impact, right? Like we saw some of the food service management companies change. Like I really want to uplift the work of Sodexo, especially in the Northeast, like focusing on transparency and sustainable local food. And we believe that Real Food Challenge played a part in like helping bring these priorities to work across food systems and universities. But we haven't seen it everywhere, right? And that's also something we've learned and see. Another success is that sustainability is like in-house, right? Like we see universities have positions and roles that are doing basically what the Real Food Challenge did as a DIY organization early on. And that's new. That's something that we have to learn how to work with and are figuring out how to work with. We also saw backsliding over time, that commitments are one thing, but it didn't always turn into sustainable change, or given some time and space without a lot of student and RFC pressure or attention, for whatever reason, lack of capacity, lack of will, lack of contractual ability, those commitments and efforts were not sustained.
Thanks, Jesse. Other things that like are standing out as learnings from that time was the power and need for collaboration in expanding finding ways to amplify our standards and therefore our values and our core principles that we bring forward. And so the alignment with Anchors in Action, so that AIA group that Jesse talked about earlier in the flyby. So that's Center for Good Food Purchasing, Healthcare Without Harm, and Real Food Challenge came together and started working on updating a framework that we could all use across the sectors, the institutional sectors that we are all working with, that we could be bringing a unified framework which informs our standards, right? And so like we're in the higher ed space, Healthcare Without Harm is working in the healthcare space, and the Center for Good Food Purchasing has historically been focused on the K-12 institutions and municipalities, working with corrections and some other kinds of institutions. And so across all of these sectors, there's like, hey, how much more powerful would our message be if we had a unified front on like how we're defining what values-based food procurement is and how we're measuring that. The other big learning was that there was a gap, like in ability to make impact, like at the moment of shifting the food spend. So won so many hearts and minds and shifted policy priorities and maybe sustainability goals for college campuses and systems. But the impact report I might reflect on a little bit more is that it was a lot harder to transform the spend and actually shift that spend. And the learning from that is that like there's just more need for experience and capacity to navigate those like logistics in the supply chain. And so that there's a need for more technical assistance, both to the buyers and for the growers and getting them ready for market. So all of those learnings kind of like informing this moment and how we have built like strategy and designed approaches in a lot of the spaces that we get to work in. Like Jesse mentioned, like that institutionalized sustainability, like now we are working with like folks who have positions who are internal sustainability champions, coordinators, managers. I mean, some campuses have dining has sustainability staff that are supporting their work, and students who are paid to do that food spend auditing based on some set of standards, some framework somewhere. And sometimes it's still Real Food Challenge standards too. And so we're trying to find all the opportunities we can to work with those folks. Also, RFC hired me as a procurement director to do that technical support and offer assistance to dining staff, sustainability staff with reporting, And then stretching to the working with food hubs, with regional distributors, with growers who are trying to figure out how everyone can meet their own needs while they're linking up to serve these higher ed institutions. And then how are we doing this? Well, like with measured growth, right? Why today? Because we were finally ready, and it took us this long since coming on board to be able to build enough of these like critical pieces and like test out enough of our theories about what might be impactful within the capacity that we've got on the team right now. And so that's one way we are showing up in this moment, is with like strategic pacing of our regrowth. And we feel ready to be offering really systematized ways to be involved with RFC this fall.
Yeah, we couldn't have relaunched. Like when Amanda and I were hired, honestly, we didn't have a working calculator, a website, a comm system, or any active students, right? Just to like really lay the groundwork for like the amount of work we've done in the last year and a half to get back up into a place. Amanda, some of our current students and recent graduates like did so much work to get the calculator running, and not just back to a historic level, but into a way that is growing. And you'll learn more about that soon. But another thing about this moment is that we're still needed. Like the food system doesn't serve everyone. And I'm smiling because it's like obvious and sad at the same time, right? Like that. We'll talk more about that in a second. And then the student landscape now is super different than it was in 2007, 2008 in the teens. Like we are humbled by the amount of stuff that's in students' lives, right? Like they're facing not just climate change, but climate crises. They're facing deportation, genocide, and other issues that demand their attention. And that's urgency of like their voices being a part of change and part of like keeping the world viable for their futures. And so we're trying to evaluate like, well, what does it mean? Do we bring another like sense of urgency that like needs to change the food system for the better right now? Or do we ask the question like, how could working with us feel like that community potluck where everyone brought food and everyone helps clean up and everyone's fed? Or like that family dinner where you're just like, man, I am like nourished and happy and grounded and connected. And how can we imagine working towards these ends? Because it takes work, but how can it feel that kind of like nurturing and grounded and good and connective, like yes feeling? Because let's face it, this moment, like the past, needs this. It needs people like us and like you. It needs college student voices and vision, just as it needs professionals across the food system working to make it serve everyone, not just some at the expense of many. When we talk with students, we like to uplift the work of Karen Washington, and we found that it really resonates. If you don't know Karen Washington, one of her websites on our links. She's a farmer, New York activist, and founder of Black Urban Growers, among other amazing work. And her words speak for themselves. Oftentimes people use the words food desert to describe low-income communities who have limited access to food. In fact, we do have access to food. It's just cheap, subsidized, processed food. The word desert also makes us think of an empty, absolutely desolate place. But there's so much life, vibrancy, and potential in these communities. Karen coined the term food apartheid to ask us to look at the root causes of inequity in our food system on the basis of race, class, and geography. Let's face it, healthy, fresh food is accessible in wealthy neighborhoods, while unhealthy food abounds in poor neighborhoods. Food apartheid underscores that this is a result of decades of discriminatory planning and policy decisions. It begs the question, what are the social inequities that you see, and what are you doing to address them? And I'll just like uplift those last two sentences because that's really, I feel like at the heart of what I hope to do with you all and as a Real Food Challenge. To understand that the system is built to serve some, right? It's decisions that are being made And we ask, like, well, why are they being made? What are they built on? And what are the social inequities at play? And how can we change them? We talked about how the food system has some ugly truths, and let's just give it a moment, right? Y'all are experts in these fields. I'm not going to belabor the points, but I think it's always important to name and to give space to the weight of why we're here, right? The implications of on climate and the environment of agriculture are as true as ever. The statistic highlighting the discrepancy of organic to conventional farmlands, like, is one factor of many that highlights why we have work to do. The work of the Coalition of Immokalee Workers and the Student Farm Work Alliance in their Fair Food Program helps shift labor practices in agriculture and in farms. And their report highlights so many aspects of why the labor there is not, the working conditions are not uplifted and not set to high enough standards. And the percent of women workers experiencing sexual harassment is just one of many factors. We also know that racism negatively impacts pretty much every aspect of our society. Agriculture is no different. These facts here are just, again, one point that highlight the inequity. The fact that Black farmers have to sue the USDA for their discriminatory practices shows the entrenched and institutionalized manner of this racism. And then the most recent ag census showing the discrepancy of the Black farmers in the out of the total producers is just yet another. But we share this not to, like, just feel bad, right? It's like motivating. Like, I hope that's like why we're all here, that there's a way to open the gap, to pull out this like confining feeling of the system and to create flow between the producers and the consumers, and to be a part of that like exchange that makes it better. So in this first year and a half of soil building, we really just been working on and trying to figure out how we can sustainably grow and sustainably do this work. We've been reintegrating students because they are the heart of our organization. So how do we move forward without having their voices? We've already talked about this. We've built our toolbox, and we're working with people like you to evaluate the best approach to pursue our mission. Here it is again. Our mission is to empower, support college students in shifting campus procurement to ethical, sustainable sources or real food. The theory of change, though in large, consistent food budgets of universities are channeled into values-based food systems, it benefits all aspects of the system, the land, the workers, and students and consumers. We're going to take a short break and give you two options to engage, and also just like a little bit of space to breathe and get up, stretch your legs. And if you want to throw in the chat ways that you see RFC's work intersecting with yours, you never know if it's something obvious to you, might be inspiring to someone else to hear. Also check in on the questions and answer, the Q&A and upvote stuff. Right after this short break, it's going to be like about 2 minutes long, and then we'll come back and we'll get into what we've been up to. We're going to get into the calculator and the standards, and then kind of like next steps. So go ahead and check those things out. Take a break. We'll see you in a minute. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming back. I tried to play music for you. I don't know that it worked, but I was vibing. I hope you were too on your own.
It's nice to give breaks, like get breaks where you can. Also, it's totally risky because people could dip at that moment. Like give folks permission to step away for a sec. So thanks for hanging out. And I see that a few more questions trickled in. Yes, please keep using that Q&A feature to stack your questions, and we're looking forward to getting to those after we share what we've been up to and what's up next with RFC. I just had an idea, like what if we flip-flopped the what's up next and the Q&A? to encourage folks to stick around. I don't know. Let's not do that. We didn't practice that. Okay, what have you been up to? So, you know, we've been working with students and on campus. We've been rebuilding connection with partners. We've been building out the package of what's needed to bring forward the updated set of standards and the tool that we've created to help measure. So what that new Real Food Challenge calculator looks like today. Our partners, this might not even be, these are the partners that we've been able to like start reconnecting with in this last year, which has felt so good. And there are more of you out there that we're looking to work with. And so we hope by the next time we're like, hey, everybody, remember RFC, this huge partner list is like way more filled in. A couple that I'll call out right now. One, because I saw a question about stars in the Q&A, so we'll get to that question. So RFC has been partnering with ASHE in their stars 3.0, and so RFC is still qualifying products for their sustainable and ethical spend credit. And our anchors in action here, Healthcare Without Harm and the Center for Good Food Purchasing, being the alliance, the coalition of partners that we co-developed that framework with. So our new set of standards is totally based on that work. And so being able to like reconnect with HEAL and build new connection across California has been like just such a privilege and an honor. So thanks to all the partners out there.
As we reemerged after Amanda and I were hired, we kind of inherited this intention to use California as a testing ground. So in the last year and a half, due to the conditions or relationships that spanned across our fallow period, we were able to kind of like test these things, right? We were able to get input on rebuilding our calculator, as well as see how our mission resonated with today's students. We took pretty much every opportunity we could to get in front of students and to work with them, and we found that our mission still resonates. Sweet! Like, otherwise we would have been like, oh, well, like, see you later. No, it was great. And just a couple facts that like stood out to us as we offered 3 different positions across schools in California. We had 73 applicants across the 9 schools apply for those 3 positions. And when I was talking with the applicants, almost to the number said that the mission was what drew them in. They had never thought about their food system in the way that our mission helped them see it as, and like they just really wanted to be involved. 2 of our original fellows in this iteration have stayed on after graduating college and have really been integral to the growth of RFC in this iteration and growing our capacity and our work. And it's been really, really just, yeah, really helping us feel like there's something here. And then as we work with students across the country, we find that like, what are they interested in, right? Like, they really care about the ethics of their campus food, where their money is spent, as well as having culturally and seasonally appropriate food. And then engaging in the plant-based food movement is something that's like super alive. There's so many other issues. And the capacity is also there. Like we've found that turnout is lower than it used to be for events and different activities, and we're trying to reevaluate with the students as in real time. And that's something we found for our campus partners too, that like student participation is a question, right? Like how do we inform them? How do we invite them in and get them involved? Whether that's through meaningful positions in conversations around decision making and or just the simple like getting feedback on what's important to them to have in their plates. As we work on different campuses, we found that there's need for a calculator. There's need for a dynamic tool to help assess procurement that is manipulatable and comes with technical support. We found that there's need for unifying standards across regional systems, that like even if there's a desire to work together, that sometimes the lack of compatibility is just such a barrier. And so we've been thinking about how we can play a role in helping serve that, and also how like new technology can also support that work. We found the clear need for increased capacity and resources to bridge stakeholders in campus food systems. And Amanda already kind of spoke to this, right? Like whether it's students to campus staff or dining to local producers, there's just like need for more support and more participants in bridging stakeholders. So a little bit of what we can offer to campuses in these like non-specific tool realms is just like general support, conversations, and added labor to dining staff, sustainability teams, and students in your efforts to analyze and improve purchasing. Shorthanded teams, like we come in right now free of charge to help you fluff and support your goals as long as they align with our RFC mission. And then we bring our specific knowledge, our history, and our tool set, which the standards and calculator are like, super high powered tools that Amanda is going to talk about more in depth.
Thanks, Jesse James. So it looked like a lot of you have worked with RFC or had some like context for RFC in the past. It could be that some folks here are newer to learning about RFC and therefore like newer to thinking about standards and calculation tools. I'm going to read a thing that I had to write out because I'm so excited to share this with you that I often tend to just jump right in and sometimes get too deep in the weeds, like way too fast. And so this is my note to myself to pause and let you know that we are going to flow. We've been able to talk about like a bit of the feeling of RFC, what the work of collaboration looks like, what student energy is and all of that. The standards and the calculator are like more technical pieces. And so like there's a shift in the way that the conversation kind of flows around that. So this is me making an attempt at giving y'all the right level of depth to introduce our updated standards to y'all without like hopefully too much overwhelm. The biggest takeaways for folks who are like new to understanding what RFC has to offer is that we have an explicit set of standards that defines real food and a calculator tool to measure that and help you come up with your real food percentage, as well as produce some other outputs. And so with that, want to share what's special about the 3.0 standards. So it was built on the shared framework with the anchors in action with AIA. And we all got down into the ground and figured out like, what are the core pieces? What is the actual deep motivation at the heart of this work that we hope to carry forward? And it is the core principles of racial equity, climate justice, and food sovereignty. We need autonomy and decentralized power. We all deserve it. Jesse named the ugly truth and all the disparities that we see across these food systems. And so it is what deeply motivates. Shifting those things and closing those gaps is the deep motivation of our work. We grew from 4 value categories to 5. And so with local community-based economies, environmental sustainability, valued workforce, animal welfare, community health, and nutrition. And what's really powerful about this is that a lot of the partners that we work with are super hyper-focused in they might share all of the same core principles, and they are very hyper-focused on one of these sets of values, say valued workforce or animal welfare. our standards offer a way to layer these priorities and hold them together. So the standards as a whole, this is like more for folks who are not as familiar with this. It's an entire framework that is qualifying values-based food practices and purchasing on campus. So both. These standards were designed to incentivize purchasing from food producers who reflect the values of real food. So those 5 value areas, and who are those who are the most disadvantaged in the market. So if for those who were familiar with the older set of standards, these are like the high level differences between the 2.0 and the 3.0. Our 3.0 version, again, has 5 value categories with new names. You know, you might have been previously familiar with like our value areas of local community-based economy, fair, humane, and ecologically sound. And so 4 of those map kind of directly to 4 of our new ones and then we have the addition of our community health and nutrition. They're no longer, for those who take our standards and use our calculator and are doing like product level evaluation to see how each product that your campus purchases meets the threshold for real food. We no longer have product disqualifiers. There's a lot more kind of like in there, but that is something to call out. Fair trade, what used to be its own standalone qualifier, but is not currently a qualifier in and of itself to be considered real food. We've expanded the way that we're measuring in the valued workforce, so that what used to be kind of like fair labor, what now we call valued workforce. So we have new expanded criteria in that area that really does capture fair trade attributes. Previously, also, there was this food categorization. So food could be categorized as red, yellow, green. So we don't have that anymore with our 3.0 standards. And real food, we now have 3 levels of real food. So it could be real food level 1 all the way up to real food level 3. And so this was a strategic and thoughtful shift to help schools find products and suppliers who are maybe easier to work with and might come in as a level 1 real food. And then over time, working with the buyers and finding products to keep shifting and shifting to literally up level from a 1 to a 2 to a 3. A 3 being a product that is the highest representation of the values in whichever area it's qualifying. So could be animal welfare. Yeah, I'm totally not tracking the Q&A right now or the chat just because I'm in my flow. So keep your questions coming and we will totally get to the things that are coming up. Sam, was there something you wanted to call out?
I was just gonna say, I'm tracking it. I got it going. I will make sure we get to everyone's questions.
Super, thank you. A little bit next level down, peeling back one more layer, talking about the standards. So within the standards, we have definitions for how a product can be considered real food. And so like Jesse talked about, like a very big, powerful campaign that RFC hosted in the past was 20% by 2020. That was 20% real food. So the percentage of food that could be qualified as real based on older sets of standards. So in our 3.0 standards, we still we have an update to how we're qualifying products. We're leaning on both third-party certifications, but we also have our own process, like avenue, to qualify food products and items that kind of like fall outside of that. Sometimes the practices are truly good enough, but there's not capacity for a small beginning farmer or a historically disadvantaged farmer who's trying to scale just doesn't have the resources, the capacity, the historical experience to be able to navigate those certification streams. And so we do have alternative pathways to qualify products. And so real food, there's criteria under 4 of our value categories that can qualify a product as real food. So in the local community-based economies, valued workforce, environmental sustainability, and animal welfare. So that should feel and sound really similar to previous sets of standards. So the calculator is that tool that takes those set of standards, takes the standards, turns them into metrics, and allows researchers on campuses, which are usually students, to calculate their school's real food percent. I mean, at minimum, calculate their school's real food percent. There are different outputs. There are more other outputs that the calculator can provide, but at its core, this is a tool to allow students and researchers to input and analyze their food spend, and then baseline it and then mark their change over time. Nothing about that is different. That is the same old RFC pieces. But the tool in and of itself is different. And so there could be those in the room here that were using the web-based version, the 2.1 web-based version of the calculator. And maybe you went back the next year to use the tool or upload your products, and you found the website was no longer there. We also found that that was an outdated tool and had lost access to the places that it was being hosted. And so a part of being ready for this relaunch was building a tool that was going to be easily accessible for folks. And so I've rebuilt this calculator in Google Sheets. So it's online access, but it's no longer like with the institutional login. Because it's in Google Sheets, we have the ability to really customize some of the format of it, which can be very, very helpful when there are other, maybe kind of like other complementary analysis that you hope to do. Maybe it's in climate and carbon or water footprint or animal lives. Our calculator can also do some of that analysis for you too. So depending on what reporting needs are for campuses. This is the tool for schools that are using ASHE STARS. Our calculator is the tool that you would use to use our set of standards and qualify your products for their OP 7.0 food and beverage credit. Because it's in Google Sheets, you would see your calculations updating in real time. You do have to manually create data visualizations, but that's just gotten so much easier and so much cuter than it used to be, as opposed to the older version that was all kind of built in. Our new tool isn't currently offering like product level profiles like our other web-based version did, but it is updated with the newest set of standards. So just like before, it still analyzes your food spend, gives you your real food percentage, and RFC is a part of that journey with you, validating your analysis before you produce a final report. So whatever your report is in service of, if it's for your STARS reporting, we can help you with giving you that final like inventory sheet. And doing the write-up for your methodology and all of that good stuff. So these are pieces that I touched on, but I definitely want to call out that how much more flexible the tool is now. And it's got the ability, since it's in Google Sheets, like all the researchers can be using that same tool at the same time, creating their own filter views and making the tool make sense to them however they're going about their research. There are a whole host of benefits to having it currently in Sheets. So we're still on the back end working toward a more web-based version, but for now, this is serving the purpose, definitely. So this is like a little sneak peek of what the calculator looks like. Everything in orange here is like product level information. If you're able to get like volume and quantity data for your products, with having that your product weights, we can help you calculate your product weights with kind of this separate app that a graduate has developed with us, this real food climate impact app. And so she's been able to build that off of, we have a partner on the call here. So Stephen's good work in getting some updates to calculating animal lives and land use. So we've got some complementary tools to be able to offer to folks if we're working with you to use our calculator. You see, it's kind of like color coded. So visually you can see in the calculator when your researchers are in like working in the local community-based economies, it's that goldenrod color. That blue color, that's valued workforce. So it just is a lot more friendly and interface than that kind of that Excel spreadsheet that we used to offer that you'd have to upload into our web-based platform. So I don't know, I think I saw in the chat that some people were like kind of interested in our standards and our calculator. And so we're excited to work with you and to connect and hear how you see the calculator being supportive to y'all, because we know why it's a benefit to your schools, to your decision makers, to your students. And so, you know, when you're working with us, you know, researchers are supported. Jesse named how like we offer technical support throughout the process to researchers doing the research. Starting fall, we'll have like some like more intensive trainings around the calculator for those who are looking for the 2025-2026 use of this updated calculator. Some of the flow is pretty similar, but then, you know, we bring these other kind of like supportive resources and tools. The Real Food Guide is part of the Real Food Guide you can find on on the calculator page of our website. So that shows you like, how does food qualify? How can products qualify as real food? There's also a vendor guide that we share with you. And so when you're like, oh yeah, now we need the data. How do we ask for the data? Or maybe your distributor that you're working with or your food service management company is like, what is the information that you need? This vendor guide breaks that down for them so they can get you the data that you need, or at least gives us a starting point. So look forward to getting into the questions about all of this. But before we jump in to that, there's a lot about what's next and what we have. So this is, again, the shameless plug for the intake form. And when you fill out the intake form, you'll be in the loop with us to hear about calculator rollout schedule that's upcoming in fall, to get involved with the to get connected. Students are right now circulating campus food surveys, which is a tool that captures student feedback on their campus food system. Student recruitment, we're looking for students to join RFC this upcoming school year. So follow the link to the intake form so we can get connected and start talking this summer about how we can support student presence on your campus. Head to our calculator page to sign up for calculator learning sessions. So these aren't formal trainings yet on how to get in like the nuts and bolts of the calculator, but it's much more in depth than this introductory call that we just had. So we've got 3 learning sessions. They're all going to be about the same. So you just need to sign up for one. or sign up for all 3 if you love it so much. This will help at least like baseline enough of the grounding information for you to be able to hit the ground running in fall. And then also in fall, like looking to start a data tracking and reporting community of practice, because there's a lot of talk about like data, who has what information, how do we know it's reliable? And that's like all the way from the producer level to the institution, and then all of those actors in between. And so a lot of us are wrestling with different food related data management issues. And so this community of practice would be a space for us to co-learn about what's working, what's not, and over time be able to build like a best practices guide sheet. So looking forward to that.